Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. I love the stories with this guy. He is an established, noted architect in the New York City area, but he was also a tennis pro back in the day. And the stories that come out that we talk about, the people that he was involved with, like just an amazing career before his career, i.e. the architecture. We're going to talk about some of the tennis stuff now with Mr. John Riggio back on the program. Hi, John. How you doing?
Good. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Very well, very well. Can we look at the contract that you had? Now, we had talked about that in the past, and forever changing. There are the things that, as you were moving along, the money, the amount changed. Then it was different company was taking over the contract. Where did we leave off last time we talked about that?
Yes, I had to remember more things about my contract. And what happened is the contract didn't end at $100 million. So from my phone calls with the Mitsubishi Sport Group in Japan, I was talking to them on the phone a number of times. So this originally started as a one-time phone call I made to them to see if I can try to get things going, and it turned into a whole series of phone calls. And but from my advice and telling them about how my contract can get sold, they were able to find one investor in France. It was Bernard Tapie, and the agreement to buy my contract fully did not go through. But what they were able to do, they were able to gain some additional partners. Bernard Tapie, I think, did contribute some money, and then there was also another sport goods brand. It wasn't Adidas, it was another sport goods brand that was able to invest a lot of money. So the total new investment came to approximately $20 million. And from I was told by my sponsors in Mitsubishi that my new contract came to about $120 million. And from my discussion with them about getting a lawyer and how partners and shares can be added on and things like that, they were able to get my advertisements back online. And this was obviously a big profit for them. They were able to have my stand-in doing some more work. And I was told by Mitsubishi that they were able to start generating some money also off my contract because of this. They're really happy about it. And so they were able to make some good money on this, and some money was getting generated. So things were starting to improve. They also told me that the new sporting goods sponsor was really going to become more like a lead, like Perot, where they were going to have someone try to organize my matches, getting me back on the ATP tour, things like that. I think the only one thing was that at the time I was moving. Had changed where I lived a couple of times. My phone numbers had changed, so there was some problems with them really communicating with me. But that is where we have left off. And now it worked out pretty good because the Japan team, the Mitsubishi company, they were able to realize some money, some sales with this. They had more partners, and I remember the officers being very happy about it, that they were able to really make some money off my contract, that they were figuring out how to get ahead with this whole thing. And so that was something that was good. Everything wasn't just going bad all the time, and it was things were starting to improve.
Out of all the companies or those involved with your contract, John, who do you feel was the most solid, the most trustworthy, the most lucrative, like they were moving forward? Out of everybody, Mitsubishi, I know Ross Perot was connected, and others. What are your thoughts? Like which?
Okay. Okay, we got interrupted slightly there.
Yeah, you're a little
Hello, can you
glitchy
hear
here
me?
too. I'm experiencing what you're experiencing. I see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think the different groups were good. I think this new chapter with the partners was something brand new. It was a little bit different. Before we had one main contract, and then there were some shareholders in addition to the main contract. But this having full-fledged partners where they're sharing the contract was something new, and it grew the gross number of my contract, which is good. So it's a much larger contract, and
Hmm.
so that was something new about the how it worked. I think going back, of course, to my contract was really to the very beginning with Patrick Mulrooney in the sports shop. Really got that really going, and that was from years of experience, successful experience, and knowing how to really work the whole thing with the sponsors and all the different things with the brands, materials, as far as clothes, tennis rackets, things like that. So that set me on a good track to play the tennis.
How did it wrap up for you when you know the end part of that contract? Where I'm trying to remember reference points. How did that end for you?
Okay, well, the contract is still left open, and I think what happened was since my advertisements got going and everything, and my standing was there, um, the contract did continue to progress. I think the whole thing, of course, is based on me really getting and playing those matches, ATP matches, and this problem with the communication to me, and not really getting on the ATP tour was sort of a problem. So that's
Hmm.
where we were left open with the contract, and so it was just kept as an open contract, and there were some good things there happening at the end, and that's about it.
Wow.
I haven't really talked to that particular group of sponsors, but maybe there's some activity about it. I would really have to try to remember more specific things going on, and then see what the story is with that.
How about some other things from that time that you could share with us?
I think one interesting story that was happening was when I was playing and my contract was getting sold, particularly at the point of getting sold to the Perot company. Now, I was just remembering the numbers, and I remember the gross number from the Southeast getting sold over to Perot as a lead investor was a gross $30 million. And I think at that time, there was one thing going on that, in fact, I already knew about, was some things about there's some dangers in pro sports. I think years ago I told you about the story with some things happening with the Olympics, with those Olympic training sessions.
Hmm.
And then what happened is one person who's very visible on television came to check my welfare to see how I was. And that was Mr. James Carville. I don't know if you know him or see him on in politics.
Say the name again.
So he stopped by, James Carville.
It sounds familiar.
He's on
Okay.
politics. I think he's still on politics. You see him on television a lot. And so he had stopped by just to take a look, see how my welfare was. And I think, yeah, everything was going good. I told him my situation. But I think one interesting thing is a lot of times you might read in the newspaper that like a professional sport player, he's at home, maybe like at a barbecue, and then all of a sudden shots ring out or something like that. And well, I think one interesting insight that I could add to that is like when a pro sport player's at home, I think the people around them, they might not really believe that he is a pro sport player. He's just an ordinary person. There's no way to really know who he is.
Hmm.
And then if something really crazy happens, they might not even understand what is going on. And that's because there might be some dangers associated with pro sports. That is one interesting thing. I think that is so. I think so. At least one more person came to take a visit over to me at that time just to see how everything is. This was a stable situation. But just to add to that, also it isn't really safe also like around the court side either. And I remember
Hmm.
one story that happened was they had given me the gift of the black Mercedes at Sutton East. And since I was too young to drive that particular car with the lease agreement they had. And but what they did was my sponsors had someone dress up like me with tennis sweats and a tennis cap, a white sweats, white cap, and they had him get in the car and drive around in New York City. And in fact, something did happen. In fact, because the lease company was saying that that car, for some reason, I don't know, people might have jealousy, jealous outrage. I don't know what the problem is,
Hmm.
but there was a chance that someone could try to shoot the car. Someone could really try to shoot the car. And from what I was heard, that the person that they had in there driving around, that someone did really shoot the car. It was
So,
really
whoa. All
was
right.
there
I
was
want to make
there
sure.
was some dangers like that. I think that was a very extreme situation compared to very open situation that took place compared to other things that could happen around the court side that are could be dangerous, things like that. But I think that was really the most extreme thing that was very obviously to happen.
So
And so that is
you're saying that somebody was driving around in the black Mercedes and it was a potentially dangerous situation, and there could have been possibly somebody firing a shot at the person driving it.
they did shoot the car. Someone out of the afternoon just shot the car on the driver's side.
Wow.
So that is really what happened to him. And yeah, so this whole thing that was really more like for publicity turned out that something dangerous did take place there. And I think there was always they didn't know there was a possibility from the car lease was just explaining something like that with that particular car that something could happen to them. So
My
that
gosh.
is of course they wouldn't want me in the car and something happening that would ruin my tennis game. I mean, that is
Yeah,
obviously the
yeah.
point
Well,
in playing tennis. So having a nice car,
you had said that a long time ago that you weren't able to drive that car just because at the time maybe it was your age or insurance or just the way the deal was, that it wasn't a it they gave you the car, but it's really for show. It wasn't so much where, hey, this is my own personal black Mercedes and I'm going to go driving around in it. So maybe that was a good thing based on what you're saying here about the the potential for a dangerous situation. Maybe it was a good thing
yes,
after
that's
all that you weren't
correct.
driving it. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts that you could share, things that you
Oh
encountered
yeah, I
at
have
that
all
time?
kinds of very interesting things. I think there is a number of things that I could explain. I think just going back to some more stars. I think one interesting thing is at the time when I was playing years ago, I also was able to play Dean Martin's son. You know the famous actor Dean Martin from
Sure.
like the previous
Yeah,
generation.
from the Rat Pack. Sure.
His 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 son was a pilot in the Air Force. He was in the Air Force. And in fact, but he also played some tennis. So I was able to play him in the national tournament.
Wow.
And
Didn't even know.
yeah, that is another star that had great tennis ability. He really liked playing tennis, and I
Hmm.
won the match. But of course, he was always happy to play tennis, and that was good. And I think that was at the time when I was discussing Dorothy Hamill. And I think Dorothy Hamill and him they ended up getting married, according to the wiki on the internet, which is very interesting.
Wow. And I know
And
that
so that was very good.
you had mentioned her in the past, that you were connected with her through, if I want to remember correctly here, connected with her through her, I think it was her girlfriend or your girlfriend. That's it.
Yes, through my girlfriend, a
Was that
friend,
was that
yes.
Delilah? I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember if that was
skating.
her.
Yes, with the ice skating. Yes, correct. That's her thing.
Wow. Wow.
So yes, they were friends, and then I did play him also in that national tournament, so that was very good. And
Hmm.
I think also one interesting thing about the thing with the entertainers, and I was saying some sport players they take acting themselves and things like that. It's like I didn't really get into any acting or performing, but one thing I did do was when I was in college, I was involved with some things with photography, news photography, and some reporting for arts and entertainment. So I did get some experience doing that,
Hmm.
and it just every once in a while I do get into some taking some pictures, maybe some entertainment pictures every once in a while. Not like paparazzi, but that is just one thing, one factor I got involved. But I didn't really get involved with acting, any entertainment acting, things like that.
Wow. I forget about all that can come with a sports figure, that you have all these other opportunities that crop up. I guess you take a look at it now. Look at football commentators. They're former football players, most of them, many of them. So there's all different opportunities there and sponsorships and things like that. Just amazing. And at where are we now in terms of like the timeline and your age? How old were you around this time?
Well, I think some of the stories, when I say national tournament, was really, I was young, I was 18 years old. But the latest part of that contract was really way later, was all the way when I was 28 years old. It
Wow.
was many years later from that point. And I think one thing about these numbers with the contract was very interesting to add on is that the contract numbers I'm talking about are really like the gross numbers just for the sponsor. But when I was playing some tennis, I used to talk to some people around the tennis courts, and they were telling me that my contract, as far as people looking at a player's value, was really 10 times the value. So if my contract, say at the time, this was only 5 million, my contract value, they really were seeing it as more as $50 million contract. So it's really times 10. So
Wow.
that was really something very interesting. So I think at the end number, if you were to take 120 million and times 10, you're talking about a number that's so large it's probably unbelievable. That is one interesting thing about the tennis contract.
My gosh. Never realized that. Does that hold true in lots of sports, or is that mainly just in tennis where the value of the contract is so much more?
I think it's probably in any sport.
Wow. It's got to make you feel good. you know, Back then, what did you feel like if you think back to then? Um, Here you are, maybe in your low 20s, and you're hearing that, this contract is such a sizable number. Uh, did you feel like this is just like a dream coming true here, that this is all happening to me right now?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And I think my contract was so large. That's why I was with a lot of people who were big entertainers and who were really like singers, musicians type entertainers, but they have really large contracts. And my contract in sports, like I was saying, really was the number one at the time. It was in the newspaper, and they had a few other large contracts in sports, but I think the few top contracts were really more comparable to people who are in entertainment who have like $100 million contracts or more, and that is where I was, and I was meeting the people coming to my tennis school. I think also one thing at the time is I did go to see other entertainers starting off too. I did return the favor to go to see them, and that
Hmm.
was a good group to really start to get into, was to see some up and coming entertainers and see them progress. I think
Wow.
some of the names, I'm trying to remember some of them, but they are still in the newspaper. They're in the tabloids and everything. and that is really, really amazing.
Wow. Um, do you remember getting like VIP treatment to events and things like that because of your tennis career?
Yes, I did get a lot of VIP invitations. I think some invitations were really ordinary networking, and then when I went there, a lot of times I was with a lot of people who used to read in the news, not necessarily even in sports, like people even um, like in people who are in major computer companies that they have now, like Facebook and things like that. And I know a lot of those people who are in the technology industry also, along with some entertainers and things like that. And
Wow.
so I did know a lot of those people. I think one interesting thing about getting some invitations back then, like phone calls or in the mail, there was something in deciphering which ones were really legitimate and which ones might not be really good, which is something interesting as far as business is concerned. And
Hmm.
so I think the networking ones and were very good. And I used to get all kinds of different invitations, birthday party invitations, things like that. And so that was always interesting to decipher which ones were really
It
legitimate,
just we
even
just have
like
like
phone
a
calls,
moment
more on
left here.
television, things like that.
I want to find out, John, in the time that we have here, um, did did you handle those? Did you have somebody else? I know you had a manager. I know your girlfriend was working on that with you. I think you had mentioned in the past before, but all of the stuff that's cropping up, there's a lot of stuff going on here all at once. And you got to keep, you got a tennis schedule, you got to play, you got things going on. How did you keep track of all that?
Um, Yeah, it was difficult. I think no, you had to wake up early, go to bed late, and it was difficult. I think there is some difficulty in doing things like the ordinary profession, and then of course, I get a phone call from Hillary Clinton on the phone, Britney Spears, and then I think is so it's separating the two different worlds was very interesting, and but I was able to do it. I didn't have any problem doing that. I was able to do it. I think a lot of these names and events were very secret. I did not tell anyone about them. I had to keep everything very secret. I did not want things to get ruined, telling anyone. Every once in a while in the sports, there's this thing like someone leaked something out,
Right.
and of course, I didn't ever leak anything out at that time. I think talking about it now, I don't think it makes a big deal. This is my tennis career. Those matches are over with by now, and things like that. And so it didn't. So that is what I did. So there was really a lot of those things were secret at that time. But that's what was happening. So it was just like every day events were taking place, and then I also had the whole thing with going away to play tennis. Like even when I was younger, I would have to just get on my bicycle and then go and play Saturday morning tennis. It was on television, and no one would really know what I was doing. I think a lot of people, it's difficult to believe
That's
what's going on because, in fact, around me there were some pro sport players that I knew like on the courts and things like that. And then if uh, anyone is around like an everyday barbecue or something like that, people usually put it out of their mind. They just sort of forget about it. Like people, the sport players are
I
usually
can't.
what you read in like the newspaper, which is completely normal. I act the
Yeah.
same way. I look at the newspaper. I might talk about someone as sports as far as a sport player, and then you might know the same person like on the tennis court. So that was always very interesting factor of playing and things like that.
It's just amazing. I'm just gonna get on my bike and I'm gonna go play tennis and I'm going to a VIP party tonight. Good stuff. We're out of time. I want to tell everybody if they want to learn more about everything that you do, even the architecture and the tennis, the website is John Riggio, RIGGIO.com. JohnRiggio.com. Just amazing stories. It blows my mind thinking back to what you were thinking going through that
You
time
can
as
also
a
find me on Facebook now as John Riggio, professional tennis player.
oh, didn't know. Okay, yeah, we'll
If you
definitely
put in John Riggio, I have my own little site on there, and it gives a couple links to where I have that list of all the different things that happened. All the
awesome.
little inside things like entertainment, you have to watch the video. I didn't put it in writing. So all the things about entertainers and different people I met, you'd really have to watch the videos. I have a list of videos on there too.
I did not know, and I will be checking that out later. John,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch up next time. Okay.
Welcome, it's good talking to you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.